Can one survive a close encounter with the biggest hippos ever? Imagine facing the largest hippos that have ever existed, both living and extinct. We'll be exploring modern giants and prehistoric behemoths that will make you rethink what you know about these massive creatures. If you want to find out just how massive these creatures really were, hit subscribe to Mr. Wild Facts right now. You're about to see hippos that will completely blow your mind. Let's go! Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating questions in the animal kingdom. What is the biggest hippo that has ever existed? Now, when most people think of hippos, they picture those massive river creatures we see in documentaries today. And yes, modern hippos are absolutely enormous. But what you probably don't realize is that the hippos alive today are actually small compared to some of the prehistoric giants that once roamed the earth. We're talking about creatures so massive that a modern hippo would look like a baby next to them. Hippos that could weigh over 8,000 pounds. Hippos that measured over 20 feet in length. Hippos that dominated entire ecosystems millions of years ago. And the craziest part? Most people have never even heard of these ancient behemoths. So in this video, we're going to explore both the largest living hippos on record today and the extinct species that make modern hippos look tiny by comparison. We're going to look at fossil evidence, scientific estimates, and comparisons that will help you truly understand just how colossal these animals were. By the end of this video, you'll never look at hippos the same way again. Because the hippo you see in the zoo or on nature documentaries? That's not even close to the biggest hippos that have ever walked this planet. Let's start by understanding the challenge scientists face when trying to figure out which hippo was truly the biggest. Defining the biggest hippo isn't straightforward. We have to consider both weight and length, which can be tricky, especially with fossil records. Precise measurements are hard to come by, but scientists do their best to piece together these ancient creatures. They study fossils, compare different specimens, and use their expertise to estimate just how massive these hippos were. It's a complex process, but it helps us understand the incredible diversity of hippos that once roamed the earth. Fossil records can be fragmented, making it difficult to get a complete picture. Despite these challenges, scientists have been able to uncover some amazing examples of hippos that will blow your mind. Here's the thing. When we talk about the biggest hippo ever, we're not just talking about one measurement. Size can mean different things. Are we talking about weight? Length? Height? Overall mass? For modern animals, this is easy. We can weigh them. We can measure them from nose to tail. We can study them in zoos and in the wild and get incredibly accurate data. But for extinct species? That's where it gets complicated. Imagine trying to figure out how much a dinosaur weighed when all you have are a few bones and some fossilized fragments. That's essentially what paleontologists are doing with ancient hippos. They find a jaw here, a femur there, maybe a partial skull if they're lucky. And from those fragments, they have to reconstruct an entire animal. They use comparative anatomy. They look at modern hippos and figure out the relationship between bone size and body mass. They study the density of bones. They analyze the structure of joints to understand how much weight they could support. They even look at fossilized footprints to estimate body mass based on the depth of the impression. It's incredibly complex work. And because of that, the estimates we have for these prehistoric giants often come with a range. Scientists might say a particular species weighed between 6,000 and 8,000 pounds because the fossil evidence just isn't complete enough to be more precise than that. Another challenge is that hippo fossils are relatively rare compared to other animals. Hippos live in and around water, and their bones don't always fossilize well in those environments. Water can scatter remains. Scavengers can break them apart. And the acidic conditions in some river systems can dissolve bones before they ever have a chance to become fossils. So when scientists do find hippo fossils, especially complete or nearly complete skeletons, it's a big deal. And every new discovery has the potential to change what we know about how big these animals could actually get. But despite all these challenges, scientists have pieced together enough evidence to give us a pretty clear picture of the true giants of hippo history. And trust me, the sizes we're about to discuss are going to shock you. And if you're already amazed by how scientists figure this stuff out, make sure you're subscribed because we're about to get into the actual hippos themselves. And these numbers are insane. Let's dive into some specific examples. The largest modern hippos on record can weigh up to 4,000 pounds and reach lengths of over 15 feet. These massive creatures are impressive, but they're nothing compared to extinct species like the giant hippo, also known as Hippopotamus gorgops. This prehistoric hippo was truly massive, with estimates suggesting it could weigh up to 6,000 pounds and reach lengths of over 18 feet. One of the key distinguishing features of the giant hippo was its elongated snout and powerful jaws. It's amazing to think about how these creatures roamed the earth, and it's a testament to the incredible diversity of life on our planet. So let's break this down. A modern hippo at 4,000 pounds is already one of the largest land animals alive today. Only elephants, rhinos, and some whales are heavier. A hippo that size is an absolute unit. Massively powerful. Incredibly dangerous. Capable of flipping boats and crushing anything in its path. But Hippopotamus gorgops? That thing was 50% heavier. Imagine a hippo that weighs as much as 3 average cars combined. Imagine jaws that could open wider than a modern hippo's already terrifying mouth. Imagine teeth that were even longer and sharper. Hippopotamus gorgops lived during the Pleistocene epoch, roughly 2 million years ago, in what is now Africa. And based on the fossils we've found, this thing was built differently than modern hippos. Its skull was more elongated. Its eyes sat higher on its head, which suggests it spent even more time submerged in water than modern hippos do. And its legs were slightly longer, which means it could probably move faster on land despite its enormous size. Scientists believe Hippopotamus gorgops was semi-aquatic, just like modern hippos, spending its days in rivers and lakes and coming out at night to graze. But because of its size, it would have needed to consume even more vegetation than a modern hippo. We're talking 100 pounds of grass per night. Every single night. And here's the crazy part. Hippopotamus gorgops wasn't even the biggest. Subscribe right now because what I'm about to tell you next is going to completely redefine what you think is possible for a hippo. This is the absolute king of hippos. The absolute biggest known hippo species is a real showstopper. The Hippopotamus laloumena, an ancient species that lived in Africa, is estimated to have weighed over 8,000 pounds and reached lengths of over 20 feet. To put that in perspective, that's more than twice the size of a modern hippo. Imagine coming face to face with a creature that massive. It's a humbling experience. Its sheer size would have made it a formidable opponent in its ancient habitat. Let me put this in terms that really hit home. 8,000 pounds. That's the weight of 2 full-grown rhinoceroses. That's heavier than most pickup trucks. That's an animal so massive that if it walked past you, the ground would literally shake. And 20 feet long? That's longer than most living rooms. That's the length of a small bus. That's an animal so big that if it opened its mouth, you could probably fit inside. Hippopotamus laloumena is one of the largest hippos ever discovered, and it's a reminder of just how extreme evolution can get when the conditions are right. This hippo lived millions of years ago when Africa's climate and ecosystems were very different from what they are today. Back then, rivers were larger. Vegetation was more abundant. And megafauna, giant versions of modern animals, were everywhere. Giant elephants. Giant crocodiles. And yes, giant hippos. Hippopotamus laloumena would have been the dominant herbivore in its environment. Nothing would have challenged it. Not lions. Not crocodiles. Nothing. Because when you weigh 8,000 pounds and have jaws that can crush bone, you don't have natural predators. And the scariest part? This thing could probably still run. Modern hippos can hit speeds of 30 miles per hour on land despite weighing 4,000 pounds. Imagine what an 8,000-pound hippo could do if it decided to charge. But here's the question scientists are still trying to answer. Why did these giant hippos go extinct? Why are the hippos alive today so much smaller? The answer probably has to do with climate change. Not the kind we're experiencing now, but natural climate shifts that happened over millions of years. As Africa's climate became drier, rivers shrank. Vegetation became less abundant. And the giant megafauna that depended on those resources couldn't sustain their massive body sizes anymore. The hippos that survived were the ones that could adapt to smaller territories and less food. And over time, that led to the smaller, but still very large, hippos we see today. But the legacy of Hippopotamus laloumena lives on. Because every time we look at a modern hippo and think, wow, that's huge, we should remember that millions of years ago, there were hippos twice that size walking the same rivers. In summary, the biggest hippos, both past and present, are truly awe-inspiring creatures. These massive animals could reach incredible sizes, and it's fascinating to think about how they lived and thrived in their environments. Sadly, these ancient giants are no longer with us, but their legacy lives on in our imagination. Modern hippos are already among the largest and most dangerous animals on Earth. But compared to their prehistoric ancestors, they're actually on the smaller side. Hippopotamus gorgops at 6,000 pounds and Hippopotamus laloumena at over 8,000 pounds represent the absolute peak of hippo evolution. These were animals so massive, so powerful, so perfectly adapted to their environment that they dominated entire ecosystems for millions of years. And while we'll never get to see one in person, the fossil evidence gives us a window into a world where hippos were even more terrifying than they are today. If you found that as mind-blowing as I did, then you need to do two things. If you're as fascinated by these incredible creatures as I am, share your thoughts on which hippo you found most surprising in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more amazing animal facts.